think we'll sit this one out. You know how they say we interrupt your regularly scheduled program to bring you this special report. Well, this is a special report. If you live over here in Canada or most parts of the US, you've probably heard the term snowbirds. Now, snowbirds are older citizens, usually from the age of 50, 55. Most of them are retired, and they leave their home country or provinces or cities and move to warmer climates during the winter. During the winter, yeah. So they move from the colder regions, like in Canada here, it gets to, depending on where you live in Canada, it can be minus 27 degrees Celsius, which is around minus 16 Fahrenheit. And and sometimes it can get to negative 40 or negative 40 Celsius, which is the same thing as negative 40 Fahrenheit. Somehow they converge in minus 40. Anyway, they leave these cold regions and they go to the warmer climates. And in America, they usually go to the Sun Belt, which is places like, particularly Florida. Most snowbirds go to Florida. And so Florida, Texas, Phoenix, and other people go south to the southern parts of the continents like Brazil, Mexico, Panama, and the Caribbeans. And they're usually there between a month to 3 to 6 months, and then they return when the season changes. Now, if you notice, I said they return when the season changes, not if the season changes. I don't know what crises you're going through right now, but I'm here to assure you that it will come to pass. This too shall come to pass. It is nothing but a season, and that season will come to pass. It is a law of life. Nothing lasts forever. If you're going through a very tough time, and we all are going through stuff at any point in life, we are either going into a crisis, in a crisis, or just come out of the crisis. And I want to assure you that if you're going through a very difficult time right now, if you're going through crisis, through tough challenges, I want to assure you that it won't last forever. Nothing lasts forever. Even people on life sentence are not there forever. They're one day released either in physical or in spirit. Whatever crises you're going through right now, whatever challenge you're going through right now, whatever life has tossed at you, I promise you, I want to assure you that it will come to pass. And I learned that because the first part of 2024 was, I'm 45. I've never experienced crisis like that in my life. I mean, it affected, you know how one crisis snowballs into every part of your life. It affected my family, my nuclear family, affected my health. You know, one time I was rushed to the ER. It affected everything. It was one of the worst times in my life. But even at that, you know, I was at the gym one time when this was going on, the first part of 2024, and I was listening to this speaker, and he talked about, you know, this part in Ecclesiastic where King Solomon wrote that to everything in life there is a time and season. And he told me what I'm telling you, that you might be going through a crisis, but to everything in life there is a time and season. Your crisis will come to pass. And how do I know? Think about it. You have probably gone through multiple difficult challenges and crises over the period of your life. It usually happens every other year or every 5 years. There are notable crises that you can think of right now that you went through. Are you still going through them? No. You went through it and you came out of it. To everything in life, there is a time and season. Don't let that crisis define you. This too shall come to pass. Whether you're the architect of your crisis or not is not the matter. We'll discuss that later. It is not the matter. Whether you caused it or you didn't cause it, That crisis, I'm here to tell you, will come to pass. So keep your head up high. That crisis will come to pass. It is a law of the universe. As surely as the sun rises and sets, it will come to pass. I was signing my child's book report yesterday, and her book in her journal from school, they have this little facts, and so I'd never seen it. I sign her book every day, but this was the first time I was seeing this. So it had facts, and there was a fact about it, an area in Canada called Nunavut, and it said that Nunavut has, during the summer, it has 3 months of 24 hours sunshine. And during the winter, it's the reverse. They have 3 months of 24 hours pitch blackness or something like that. But even at that, there is a time and season to it. You don't have 24 hours darkness all through the year. So, whatever you are going through, I'm here to promise you that it will come to pass. So, don't let it define you. Don't let it don't let it change who you are, even though crises are sent to change us, which is the other part of it, that you should never go through a crisis without learning something. It is not a tragedy to go through crisis, but it's a tragedy to go through crisis, an absolute travesty to the universe, to go through crises and to come out not learning something. There is something to learn from every crisis. There's always something to learn. And things began to turn around for me. Not circumstances on the immediate, but things began to turn around for me when I took a pen and a pad and I began to write down things that I've learned. Take this for an instance. Have you, of course you have, but have you been through challenges in the past, or through crazy crisis that you know that you never want to go through that again? You never ever want to go through that again. But there's something in you that is so strange that is kind of glad that you did, because that crisis brought out a new part of you, which is what happened to me. Crisis can force you to realign to your purpose. And I kind of feel that the universe schedules crises for each and every person, each and every country, each and every company. We went through a coronavirus crisis a few years ago that seemed like it was never going to end. Like, God, when are we going to get out from this lockdown? But it came and it went. Crises can have a way of returning you to your purpose. It can cause you to realign and reassess, which is what happened to me. Because I just realized that I want to do what is part of my purpose, and that is I have a gift of persuasion and inspiring people alongside other things. But I just realized that I want to go back to that. That is why I set up this YouTube channel, to inspire, to persuade people to move towards their potential, towards their greater being. Because I realized I was in trucking, then I realized that even if I had 10,000 trucks and I was making all these money from all over the world, and I wasn't working in my purpose, if I die that way, of all men, I'll be the most miserable. So crisis can come to show you who you are. Crisis can spark creativity that you never knew you had in you. I always joke with my wife sometimes when we think about the food that we used to prepare when we didn't have anything, and we'll be like, oh, do you know how that it tasted so nice because we didn't have much. So you take this little money and buy this curry and mix this ingredient, mix that, and it tastes so beautiful. And sometimes we we laugh about it, but crisis causes creativity to spark out of you. You find new ways to do old things, or new ways to do new things. It introduces a part of you that you never knew was there. It causes you to wax in creativity. It realigns you to your purpose. So don't let your crisis go to waste without learning something. Yes, It will come to pass, but never let it come to pass without learning something. You know, I have these two individuals in my extended family, like extended, extended. And I'm sure you have some people like that in your family, or you know people like that in your circle of friends, or know someone who knows some people like that. And these two individuals in particular have some crazy luck in business where they launch a project, they make millions of dollars, or hundreds of thousands of dollars, millions of dollars. And in a year, not even a few years, in a year, they recklessly spend this money with such, oh my goodness, they spend this money in such a way that you're wondering, how could $3 million disappear in a year? Then they return back to their life of squalor. And just like it was planned, after a few years, they seem to come back and strike it rich again. And the same pattern happens again. And when they get all this money, they blow it within a year, and then they return back to an intense level of scarcity that they have never seen before. And they are going back to borrowing and begging. One time I asked my mom, didn't she learn anything? You know? So it's a tragedy to go through crisis and not learn something. Crisis forces you to reassess your priorities. It forces you to reassess who you think were your people. Because now maybe you've lost a job, or you've lost that appointment, or you've lost a lot of money. The same people in your family or your circle of friends that you used to take care of will not pick your call when they know you're in crisis, when they know that she ain't got it or he ain't got it like that. You'd find people that you've been taking care of, checking in on, being a blessing to. Now they know that you're in crisis, and they won't even as much as pick your call. Crisis forces you to know, this person is for me and this person is not for me. Not so that you can get better, but so that you can get better. Because I'm not, it's not to judge, but sometimes we are also those people in one way or the other, because nobody's perfect. So you go through crises, and life shows you that this person has you at heart and this person doesn't. And as I said, my life began to turn around when I took a pen and a pad and I began to write the things that I learned through this crisis. And just like that, gradually, first I changed, because I started seeing the crisis not as my enemy, but as my tough coach. So, one, it will come to an end. I, I promise you that. I assure you that. It is a law of the universe. Nothing lasts forever. That crisis you're going through will not last forever. I promise you. I promise you. You can take that to the bank and deposit it. It will not last forever. But while you're at it, make sure, it's like you can speed in the process of the crisis. It's like you can speed in the duration of the crisis. You can bring it to an abrupt end when you change. When you go back and start thinking, oh, this is what I learned. And what would I do different again? Now I've learned so much. It's realigned me to my purpose. It has realigned me to what I resonate with. And while I never, ever, ever want to go through that again, I pray I will never go through that thing again. But I am grateful that he came. So I want you to look at that crisis that same way. Now, while it's very bitter, but get better. It shows you who is for you and who is not for you. And you shouldn't go out hating them. They say unforgiveness is like drinking poison and hoping the other person dies. Don't get bitter. Get better. It sparks up creativity in you. You find new ways to do old things or new ways to do new things. It reassesses your priority. Now my priority has been streamlined to my family, to my close circle, and to the people like you that I hope I can speak to and inspire, and to let you know that it doesn't matter what you're going through. It doesn't matter if you cost it or not, but it will come to an end. But let it come to an end with you holding jewels from it. Don't they always laugh at us in school that back home in Nigeria, and they tell us that this person went to school but school didn't go through him. You went through the crisis, but don't let that crisis go. Don't go through that crisis empty handed. Leave with jewels. I've learned this, I've learned that, and take it to heart. Because in life, there will be another crisis ahead. But going through crisis also builds emotional resilience. I never knew I was this resilient and this positive until I went through this. I didn't know where I was tapping strength from, but it caused me to be so tough and so resilient. And I want you to allow that crisis build resilience, build emotional resilience in you. That in truth, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. One time I had to face my creditors because, I took loan from the banks and all that. And, creditors started calling. And you know how it is, they can send you a stinker. And one time I realized that the person behind this, it's a person behind this institution. The institutions are not run by robots, and I decided, you know what, let me call and reorganize things. And it was so crazy because by the time I reached out, there were all manner of friendly people who are going out of their way to help me reorganize things. And I was like, wow, I could have been behind my shell cowering. Oh, I don't want to hear another person call me. And I met amazing people that taught me a lot about financing and reorganizing your finances and doing this and doing that and apportioning this. Oh, okay, close this and open this. Oh, this could make you more money here. Oh, you can do this and earn maybe 4% interest. It's not a lot, but I can help you do this. And just like that, I learned so much. And I was like, why was I shying away from this? So it gave me boldness. It gave me boldness. I learned a lot about finances. And like that, I'm out of it. So the crisis is difficult, but there is a Christ in all crisis. Even if you are the architect of your crisis or not. If you're the architect, learn to forgive yourself. Because the unforgivable sin is the sin of not forgiving yourself. Because if you don't forgive yourself, no one can forgive you. That is why it's called the unforgivable sin. Religion makes you think that it is blasphemy against the Holy Spirit. But think about it. Not forgiving yourself is blasphemy against you because you're saying, I'm too bad not to be forgiven. It's a sort of reverse pride. What I've done is too great. I cannot be forgiven. I cannot forgive myself. You are an entity sinning against yourself if you don't learn to forgive yourself. Forgive yourself. You might be the architect or not. If you are, forgive yourself, learn, and move on. People can get stuck in their past mistakes. I'm thinking about how to put this that comes out right. Let me see if I can try. You're not who you are who you were. In other words, who you are today is as a result of your past thoughts and action. So you're living in a residual. So if you define yourself by who you were, you doom yourself. What you are going through, if you're the architect of your crisis, what you're going through is as a result of the mistakes and choices you made before. That is who you were. But if you don't forgive yourself, you live yourself in the past, blaming the past. If you won't do it again, then why do you sin against yourself by not forgiving yourself? The unforgivable sin is the sin of not forgiving oneself. You can't be forgiven by God, you can't be forgiven by your family, because it is your job to forgive yourself. So let it go. There, there are more things in life. We were driving out, and we passed a certain place in our city, and we saw people, what do you call it, canoeing or something like that. And it was such a beautiful scene. This was in the summer. It was such a beautiful scene. And I was telling my wife that, a job can keep you so engrossed in it that you cannot take time out to look at the beauty that is out there for free. Don't get so engrossed in your crisis that you don't see the beautiful things that you have learned and to see the beautiful person that you are becoming. And the crisis is there to make you, force you to become that person who you really are. Because you're not just an extension of infinite intelligence, you are infinite intelligence, having a human experience. And crisis, I was listening to 50 Cent, and he said the drama means nothing. It's part of the game. If you know 50 Cent, he can be very dramatic. But he said the drama means nothing. It's part of the game. Crisis is part of the game. It's part of the game. It's difficult. It's bloody difficult, but it's part of the game. So learn from it, but don't define yourself by it, because those decisions were made by the past you. You were new. So forgive that person and move on. So, again, to reiterate what King Solomon says, to everything, to everything in life, there is a time and season. This crisis that you're going through will not last forever. Things will begin to change when you begin to change, when you begin to see, oh, this is what the crisis was forcing me to see. You take a pen and a pad and you begin to write. I'm so happy and grateful that I learned this, I learned that, I learned this about myself, I learned this about my family, I learned this about my friends, I learned this about my business, I learned this about my purpose, I learned this about life. The worst life to live is a life of regret. So train yourself to forgive yourself quickly and move on. Train yourself to learn from crises and move on. Because if you can begin to learn what the crisis is trying to show you, you can move out of it quickly. Why? Because you're becoming better. You're not becoming bitter at the crisis, you're becoming better. And you're waxing stronger. You're walking in creativity. You know who your people are, so you can focus on them. Just like I decided to focus on myself, my family, and you. Focus, reassess. I think it was Alvin Toffler. I don't remember his name. I don't know if I've said it before, but he said the illiterate of the 21st century is the person who is not the person who cannot read and write, but the person who cannot learn, unlearn, and relearn. The illiterate of the 21st century is the person, not the person who cannot read and write, but the person who cannot learn, unlearn, and relearn. So if you're going through a crisis, learn, unlearn, and relearn. Forgive yourself and move. To everything in life, I promise you this. And you know this for a fact because you've been through crisis and you've been out of crisis multiple times. So, in case you don't remember, I'm here to tell you that to everything in life, there is a time and season. My dear one, it will come to pass. but never let it, never go through the crisis. We had this thing in back home in West Africa. They laugh at some people, and they say, they joke that he went through school, but school didn't go through him. Never go through a crisis without taking jewels from those crises, because every crisis comes with jewels. Never let it. I'll say, you came into my life and you did this to me. All crises. I'm taking something from you. I'm taking jewels. And the moment you begin to do that, the moment you begin to see that, you begin to change. And the light just shines through. So I was hoping not to make this long, but I hope this makes sense. And I hope this blesses you and sees you through, because you will come out of it. I promise.